So hi, my name is Cujo. I've been reading a lot on the Tibetan people and Buddhist monks, and awareness is probably the best thing to develop, and it's the only thing technically that we own outside of everything. Like, we don't own our bodies, we don't own the thoughts. Everything is kind of like a passing tide. Time makes everything pass, but the one constant is the awareness or the beingness of you. So with that in mind, for things only to exist from a perspective of awareness, or from a perspective of being spiritualist, or like a Buddhist or a Tibetanist, or not Tibetanist, a Tibetan. The only way for something to exist is for you to be aware of it. It's the question of, if there's a tree that falls in the woods and there's no one to hear it, does it make a sound? The only thing that you really have in this current moment is your awareness of things going on. So wherever you choose to focus that awareness into, you're going to end up growing and expanding the thing that you focus that attention and awareness that you have. Like, to take myself for example, I do a lot of music and I do these videos, and you could say externally that the things haven't really grown too much in terms of comparing it to other people, but over time it has grown and grown. I've grown my catalog, and I've grown my music catalog as well, and that in of itself has been where I placed a ton of my attention and a lot of my time. And because I did that, the thing grew on its own with my presence and my beingness focused on that thing. This is, I think, the one law, or the one thing about life that people should learn and become conscious of, and to expand their awareness of life and do meditation and things like that. Having awareness of everything, like your own patterns or what's going on around you, is going to be a trait that you develop that I think is going to determine whether you're successful or not, if you can focus that awareness into the things that you want to become and the things that you want to let go of. I recently learned, I can't cite anything or remember exactly where I learned about this. In order to get over something like addiction, it's actually not trying to fight the addiction that is how you get rid of the addiction. Actually partaking in the addiction, but while you partake in it and you're aware the entirety of you're doing it, you're building your awareness. So eventually you'll get so aware to the point where you're just disgusted with yourself, and then you'll drop it. Or at least that's the idea. Obviously, I think addiction is not a universal thing to fix, but I think whenever I've been hooked to stuff, notably caffeine, when I partook in drinking caffeine but was having a full awareness of what I was doing, eventually I got to the point where I was completely aware of my behavior, and I could look at the thoughts and look at the things that were coming up and then just let them completely dissolve when I just looked at them, when I just actually sat with them and then was like, yeah, I'm thinking about the caffeine right now, or I want my next caffeine fix. The only reason that this video exists or is able to sustain life on its own or exist in the universe is if someone is watching it. So the person that's watching it right now is giving the video itself life. And the more you give attention on something on like a social scale, the bigger an entity grows. Some Buddhists, they call this tulpa, which essentially like an idea, once it becomes in the consciousness of multiple people, it grows in its own entity that isn't physical. Like, it becomes its own being outside of the physical. So the more awareness and the more eyes that are on something, especially Pepe the Frog, he's one of the most notable tulpas that I could think of off the top of my head. But because multiple people gave their awareness and their attention to this one thing, especially memes, the more a meme is given, the more of like a tulpa or entity it becomes, and it has its own energy that kind of washes over the culture. So if you want something to grow, if you want something more in your life, you have to give it more attention. You have to give it more awareness, love, and care in the moment and presence. So with this in mind, like, if you want to date someone, or if you want to date people, if you want to start a YouTube channel, if you want a new job, if you want an education, these are all things that you have to actively pursue in the present moment. And every single second that you spend chasing these goals in the present, not in the future or the past, but in the present, the more that you grow that aspect of you in a meta sense. I mean, I could kind of go into detail and say that that's actually not you and that there's nothing behind the awareness, but that might be too spiritual for right now. I don't know if people who watch me would actually quite understand what I'm talking about, but basically just trying to say we live in the Matrix. To explain the way that I think, the Tao Te Ching is one of my favorite books. I love The Art of War. I love the Book of Five Rings. I think everything in life is kind of a contradiction. Everything that's physical is non-physical, and everything that is non-physical is tangible. Kind of that type of mentality if you read those books. Essentially, the way of Tao. Lately, I've been doing like a camera alongside me recording these. I kind of want to mix them up with gameplay that I've been playing in the week, and then do one with a camera and just kind of alternate between my gameplay and then me, just because I've always kind of done this channel to catalog my journey and what's going on in my life. So this is like actual gameplay of what I've been playing alongside the thing that I'm making. But yeah, this is the one law, the one thing that people need to understand, is that every single one of us has the same 24 hours in a day. We might come from different backgrounds, we might be different people, but what actually determines how successful your life is, and success is subjective to the person. You are the only person that can dictate whether what you're doing is a success or not. But regardless of the different backgrounds, wherever you're putting your attention is going to be what determines your future, what determines your present as well. Personally, I have a hot take that the past, present, and future is all happening at the same time. It's all happening in the now, and therefore what you're thinking about and what you're doing, what you're putting into action, what you're focusing on, I can tell you what your future is going to look like, what your past probably looked like. It's a good indication of how successful or what the person is fixated on. Not even really how successful, just what the person's path is, depending on the person that they are now. It's a very strong indicator, in my opinion. The cool thing I think though is that I think there can be special events that change a person entirely, or just little changes over time that dictate where a person is going to end up. Like for me, I had a falling out with some people that completely made me realize that I want to become healthy and get my life essentially on track. But in that situation, I ended up changing intensely over like a week. Like the mental had changed, it was just the physical that had to catch up. But once I started putting focus on the things that I wanted to focus on, then it just led to the person who's sitting here in shape, talking to a microphone, uploading this on YouTube, making music, like doing all this different stuff and just trying to better their life. And like it has led to so much growth internally, externally, and in all areas, that this is the skill that has made me who I am, or the understanding that has made Cujo. So I want to also clarify, and I have the same 24 hours as you. I don't put that same attention into some of the things that people pay attention to. I can't respond to all the messages that I get. I can't respond to everyone. I can't spend my time trying to do a bunch of different stuff on social media. I can't spend the time hanging out with every single person that wants to hang out with me. There's a lot of sacrifice that comes into trying to be the person that you want to be, that I want to be. But once you can get over a fear of like missing out and focusing on just a few different things, then it'll lead to exponential growth and then an understanding of everything just through those few mediums that you choose to do with your life. So how can you master your attention and your focus? How can you get it into control? You need to sit there and you need to do absolutely nothing and just watch. Now, if you're sitting there and you don't understand what I'm saying, there's something called meditation. The moment that you're trying to meditate, you're missing the point of meditation. Meditation is just a formal way to cultivate awareness more in your life, and a self-awareness, or just watching the self and seeing what the self does. Almost like your own hypothesis, like you're an abstract concept, and you're kind of trying to just put ideas into your head and see if it betters your life or if it doesn't. At least that's how I use meditation. I use meditation to just watch thoughts come up. It doesn't even matter what thought it is, if it's positive or negative. It's just an awareness of like, oh, I'm thinking bad things about Betsy this week. Or, oh, I'm noticing that I don't like chicken as much as I often do. Just random stuff. It's not important what you're thinking about or what's going on. It's the fact that you're sitting there and you're paying attention to yourself, and just having an overall general better mindfulness will lead to a better mindset. Because then you can choose to let go of thoughts you don't want to have, and then cultivate more thoughts that you do want to have and that serve you. I used to be like very nihilist when I was barely out of high school, was very nihilistic. But the thing about like nihilistic beliefs is it doesn't really take you anywhere, because you don't end up doing anything because of the nihilist beliefs. You're like, oh, nothing I do matters. To where when I've held more positive beliefs and held not even hope, but just a process that I love doing. I love just doing stuff in the moment. It's not even hope. I would call it faith, that I'm just doing what I love to do and what I enjoy spending my time doing, and just having faith that whatever happens is meant to happen from the dawn of time. It's been waiting to happen to me. That life happens for me, to serve me, to teach me, and whatever goes on is meant to serve me. It's not meant to hurt me. It's not meant to pull me into despair. It's to make a better person out of me if I'm choosing to pay attention. That is how I would recommend for someone to fix a problem with holding focus or holding attention, is to just try guided meditations, or just sit and do breath meditations and just watch what happens. The more that you watch and the more you make a formal, consistent practice out of it, the more naturally your meditation practice is going to bleed into the other areas of your life, because overall, it's just going to increase your awareness inside of the practice and outside of the practice. You're going to notice things that you didn't notice before, and you're going to let go of the things that you become aware of that don't serve you. Obviously, this is something I'm very passionate about. The mind-body-spirit connection is the most important thing that you can cultivate to work together. I think will determine a person's life and well-being is the quality of the three and the connections between the three, because all three of those is what creates the organism, the person that's sitting in there somewhere, the consciousness that's sitting there somewhere. So anyway, if you like that talk, please leave a like, subscribe, comment. It helps out the algorithm. Also consider watching some of my other videos if you like talks like this, but just do whatever you can to cultivate awareness. I love you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and goodbye now.